Missed those.
Oh, well, thanks.
Just to get ready for the vast audience, thank you. Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order, the Parks and Community Services at 6:32, 6:31. So I will, Clarence, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure, let's all stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Liz, roll
Okay.
call,
Sure.
please.
Commissioner Griggs,
Here.
Commissioner Mamero,
Here?
Commissioner Margalotti, Vice Chair Servente,
Here.
and Chair Iberger.
Here.
Thank you. Chair Einberger, Chair Margalotti did notify us in advance that she would not be in attendance tonight.
Okay. Okay, so do we have any public comments regarding items not on the agenda? No? No. Thank you.
Chair Einberger, it looks like we have one person in Zoom audience that would like to make a comment.
Okay,
We have Justin Hamilton Hall. Justin, are you with us?
Yep, I am here. Thank you, Liz. Good evening, everybody. I need to see, this is not, other me. Uh, we don't know, do you guys know when we get new house from, West Karen Dunmore for new house for four house and five house sidewalk? And I just had a phone call with with him, and he said it's gonna be coming soon, but it's a very long time. We need sidewalk over there. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Justin.
That looks like all the public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you, Liz. So are there any agenda changes from the commissioners? Nope. Nope. Okay. So moving on to the consent calendar. The last meeting was on October 13th. So any discussion about the meeting minutes, or is there a motion to approve them? If not,
I'll move to approve.
All second.
Okay, we'll go ahead and do a roll call. Commissioner Griggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Mamero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Servente,
Yes.
and Chair Einberger.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, then moving on to business. So the first order of business is the presentation and discussion on the fee philosophy.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Good evening, American Canyon. So when we put this on our work plan for this year, we were trying to finalize the work that was done by this committee and staff, by this commission, and staff, to understand what our fee philosophy was going to be for the department, including our cost recovery rates and potentially a master fee schedule. Liz and I met with the consultant this past week, and I think I'm fairly caught up to speed on all the amazing work that was done and all the detail and the data that went into that work. So I really wanted to take this opportunity and thank you. Thanks to our staff and thanks to this team here, because it was pretty, there was a lot there. And so what we did was I wanted to get up to speed with our consultant that that put everything together and compiled everything, and I wanted to understand that. And this evening, I wanted to go ahead and just kind of revisit what we had done and make some recommendations for us to be able to move forward, including next steps. So we're going to go ahead and start that with this evening's presentation that I've put together for us. Okay, so first off, after speaking with the city manager, we really started to kind of break down, are we going to have a fee philosophy, or are we going to have a more of a user fee study? And I think that better fits with what we're trying to do. We want to have something that can evolve and adapt. I think that was the one takeaway that I got from looking at all the data that was compiled and where that data was left off and where we are today. So we wanted to have something that this department now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, can evolve and adapt to the changing of times and to our community's needs. It's really important that we recognize that it's our goal to serve this community, and it's our goal to understand what this community's needs are, and that we, our goals should try to meet that. And so we felt that moving forward, we're gonna change it from a fee philosophy to a user fee study. With that being said, pre-COVID, you guys had identified 12 service categories. And this evening in front of you, you have a packet. It's going to be categorized as pre-COVID service categories, and those are the 12 that we had identified. Just very high level, we have our beginner and introductory level. We have our community events. We have our drop-in monitored access. We have our education and enrichment programs and classes. We have our environmental conservation and stewardships. We have our human services. And, you know, there's examples that we have tried to identify during that time of what would fall within that category to make it a little bit easier for staff to be able to put those programs in places that we felt that was best based off of the service categories. And then number 7 was our intermediate and advanced level. And then we had our merchandise, food and beverage sales, our open access, our private, semi-private level, our rentals, and special events. Then what you did, so not only did we create those 12 service categories, but then what we did is we tried to put it on a scale of what we thought was more common good versus individualized good. And as you can see from this spreadsheet, we started off at 0% cost recovery, and it goes all the way up to about 100% cost recovery. And that was based off of what overall is serving the community. Like, there's more value to that, right? Like, we're not just evaluating revenue. Like, I want to make this very clear. Our goal here tonight is to not generate revenue to be 100% cost effective. Not everything we do has a fee associated to it. Our community events, for a perfect example, there's no fees associated to that. The benefit to the community outweighs the revenue that we could ever generate. So our goal is not to be 100% budget neutral as a department, but it is to be mindful and physically responsible and to identify areas where we can charge a minimal fee or a fee that helps, right? Like, our biggest cost for our department is our staff time. People are tied to our programs. We need people to offer the services that we provide, and just being mindful and physically responsible with that and charging a fee to pay for that service in some shape or form. But not everything is going to have a fee. Not everything is going to be cost recovery. And I think this displays that very beautifully. It shows what we value as a department and what this community values with our open space, our human services, and our community events. Those have either a 0 or low threshold of cost recovery because the value that they bring to this community outweighs the revenue that we could ever generate. And then you move into like our drop-in programs and our beginner introductory level classes. Again, it's not a full 100%. There's anywhere between 25 to 75% cost recovery. And when we look at this, we need to also identify that cost recovery is including the entire department, right? Like when you look at your budget, like our budget right now is, I think, $2 million. And that includes staff time, facility, maintenance, water, electricity, IT, a lot of that stuff. Like if we were to include that in every program that we offer, our fees would be unattainable. They would be so high and so expensive for us to be able to offer the services that nobody would be able to do it. So our goal again tonight is to just be physically responsible, recognize the areas that we can recover costs, and then also recognize areas where we know these programs traditionally are subsidized. We know senior services are traditionally subsidized because of the clientele that we're serving. Most of them are fixed incomes, or, so just making that affordable for them to be able to get out, because again, there's more value. There's more value to provide a space for them to come to recreate, to get out of their house and hang out with their friends or do something fun in a space that allows that. So I just wanted to make sure that I was clear, because I didn't want you to think that our goal was to be 100% cost recovery, because that is not our goal. But as you can see with the work, it's the common good versus individualized good, and the cost recovery rates does go up with the more individualized purpose. So moving on, this is kind of where we're at. This is a snapshot. So 1920, 21, 22 really isn't, I would just ignore those years just because of the pandemic. And, there was a lot of great work that was done there, again, that did not generate revenue. That is where our team was required to provide essential services and support our community and nonprofits. We did food distribution, sheltering. There was a lot of community-based services in there that just do not generate revenue, and there was a lot of good work that was done there by the team. And I don't want to discredit that. And so when you look at the revenue there and you look at the cost recovery, it's lower, yes, because we didn't generate revenue. However, the benefits that we provided with the staff that held on during that time outweighed the revenue that we could have ever achieved. So I just want to be, I want to bring highlight to that, because it's more than just money. What we do is a lot of community services, human services, essential services. We provide recreation programs, recreation experiences for the community. So as you can see, we started 18-19 at a 20% cost recovery. 19-20, 2021 was lower, and then we started to gradually build back up. With this year, with the potential of being with a cost recovery rate of 31%. And that is, again, that cost recovery is if everything runs the way that we planned it. I mean, we were planning on bringing back facility rentals and bringing in some enrichment programs and bringing back open space programs. And, yes, we're moving in that direction for summer, but we've started a little bit later because of our staffing constraints. We thought we were going to bring on the 2 full-time people a lot earlier than we did. And so there's going to be some adjustment to that as well. Our expenses will be lower because the staff costs won't be there, and the revenue will be lower because we didn't offer those programs. So hopefully it will balance itself out. But that was presented to council, and that was approved when the budget was adopted in June of 2022. Do you guys have any questions so far? Okay, moving on. All right, and so also during this time, they had taken all of the programs and classes that we were offering, and they stuck it in each of these 12 buckets, and it showed you where we were at with their cost recovery rates. So open space, open access was 0%, human services was 0%, community events was 8%, and so on and so forth. So, and I'm sorry, the merchandise one fell off, that's at 0%. I apologize, I don't know why that's not there, but that was at 0% as well. So that was taking all the programs and services that were provided pre-COVID and put into their categories and what the percentage of cost recovery of where they were at during that time. Here's in a different perspective. So on the left-hand side, you're gonna have our goals. Our goals, again, when you go back to this screen, you have your cost recovery percentages on the bottom, and you have your categories on the top. And then you're gonna have your percentages of where they're at, and this just puts it all in one place. So for all of these 12 categories, we put them in their little buckets, or the little triangles, of where we think they should be on the left-hand side. And then you have your open access, and then that's where you have the percentages of where those programs were at when this data was collected, just for you to see. Green means we're within the goal that we had set for the department. Red means that there's opportunity to increase those fees to be within that goal. So that's pretty much where that is. Now, as you know, a lot has changed since the pandemic and since we've kind of come out of that. And when Liz and I were walking through this, because Liz was one of the lead staff on this, I had a ton of questions for her. I thank her every day for being so patient with me as I was trying to get through this data. But we really tried to look at the pre-COVID suggested categories and really try to see, okay, out of everything that we're doing now, because a lot has changed, do those categories fit with the programs and services that we're currently offering today? And right now we have added about 3 new items, and you're gonna notice some restructuring here. So I wanted to go through with you because I really feel like this is where we have evolved as a department and as the services, and as well as with our community partners and nonprofits. I think that's a big picture that was missing from the pre-COVID. We've evolved from that, right? We now partner with nonprofits and community and our community partners to help us provide community events that, again, that are for the community. We need to recognize that. We need to recognize the different types of rentals that we're doing. And so you're gonna see some breakouts. So I wanted to go through that. So in your handbook, you have the handbook in your packet. I mean, you have the post-COVID, and I want to just go over that with you. So number 1 is volunteer internships and community services. That's where we're going to be managing individuals or groups to donate their time and effort to a structured or scheduled experience, supported educational or service requirements, provide facility improvements, or provide essential services to our community. So that I really feel like encompasses all of our volunteer opportunities, any community services programs that we do with the high school or the schools, where it's like trail maintenance, emergency shelter, disaster services, like all that stuff that we were doing during COVID and now. Non-monitored park and facility usage, that's where that definition is really for our open spaces, right? Like our trails, our parks, our skate park, our dog park, our playgrounds, where people can come down whenever they want and use those amenities. There's no staff tied to it. There's no monitoring of it. It's just open to the public from sunrise to sunset. Then we have our community events and nonprofits and community partners. This is where community-wide events provided by a city-recognized nonprofit or community partner that benefits and serves the entire community as a whole. Typically, these events would not require a fee to attend, but they need some support from the city, i.e. facility staff, facility, or minimal resources. And I just put minimal resources as a broad, because sometimes we'll provide tables, sometimes we'll provide chairs. It just really depends on the need, but there is going to be some support from the city. And that's to help to make that community event successful. And this would include like Juneteenth, Pride, the Pumpkin Walk with AAC Arts Foundation at the wetlands, et cetera. So that is what we're considering like a community event nonprofit community partner. So it's a community-based event where there's no fee associated with it. It's truly the benefit of the community. It's to enhance the quality of our community and bring people together. So community events produced by the city, again, I think that's just city community events like July 4th and Magic of the Season, et cetera. Again, it's our community-based events. And then we have facility passes and drop-in monitor classes. This is for any organized programming that is provided by the city where there's staff on-site monitoring. So that would include lap swim, public swim, unstructured activities and social time, open gym, recreation swim, etc. Rentals that are exclusive use, but they're with our affiliates, partners, and community services. This is a temporary and exclusive use of city space and facilities on a one-time or seasonal basis through a formal agreement of the group identified as having allied interests with the city, fulfills a core service in lieu of the city, and serves the community at large. And this would be example of like the Reindeer Run or like our crowd feed fundraisers where we support those community partners. And in general, the idea of that is, in essence, we want to keep those fees low, right? Like we want to at least cover our staff costs, but we don't need to cover all of our costs, right? Like because we want to make this beneficial because they're raising those fees. The thought is that they're going to raise those fees for some purpose to be able to serve this community in a different way. And where that money potentially is going back into the community. They're tied to this community, they're invested in this community, they're doing these fundraisers to enhance the quality of life of this community. So we wanted to recognize that because that is happening. Then we have our classes, programs, workshops, and camps, and this is for the beginner and multi-level. That's pretty much the same as what you guys have already identified. That's going to include learn to swim group swimming lessons, basketball and fitness classes, enrichment and educational programs, tournament and leagues. This is for like our softball leagues or baseball leagues, basketball leagues, swim meets, volleyball leagues. So anything that we would do that would be a league type of program. It's more than like 8 classes. Like we're talking, it has a lot of staff time to put on a league, to have those practices, to have those games. Trips, this would include any tours, dinners, theaters, day trips, boat tours, etc. Then we have our specialized activities and camps, and this would include our nature camps, sports and summer camps, technology and STEM camps, our classes, programs, workshops, camps, and clinics for advanced and competitive certifications. That would include like our lifeguard training, competitive swim clinics, and maybe if we have a travel or competitive sport program. Merchandise and concessions, that's the sale and the use of like swim diapers, food and beverage, city apparel, etc. That really pertains more to like concessions down at the pool. Or like we have Stranger Things event coming up, in March, and that's where we're going to be selling Stranger Things shirts. So just recognizing that. And then private and semi-private lessons, that's for tennis, private swim lessons, personal training. And then rentals, which is, again, we're breaking up that rental piece. Rentals for a private rental for birthday parties, and then rentals for exclusive use for private and commercial businesses. And that would be where it's like a for-profit. And we use like a mini bottle rock as an example to that, like a commercial business coming in and using our facility once, charging a fee and making a profit and then leaving. So we wanted to make sure that those type of events do cover their costs because their tie to the community isn't really there. They just see a beautiful space, they want to use it, and then they're gone. So it's more for those commercial type rentals and making sure that we are covering our costs with that. So those are the 15 categories that we were able to come up with that we felt as a department that clearly defined where we are today and the businesses and services that we are providing or even partnering with our nonprofits and community partners. And we really wanted to recognize that. It's important, again, that these categories, we had amazing categories pre-pandemic. But, just like the pandemic, I think we've all evolved and we've all kind of like looked at our business practices and how we're doing things. And we really wanted these to fit with the model that we're doing now and recognize the programs and services and the partnerships that we have with our nonprofits and community partners. So this is taking all of those 15 service categories and putting them kind of somewhat in the same structure that you guys had before, but just again, putting in a different perspective, I personally, for me, it's easier to read it this way, and that's why I chose a pyramid. But we wanted to start off with number one, which is a high community benefit, and that's where we kept, anywhere between 0 to 15%. It's for tier one, which is volunteer internships, community services. That's where we put tier one. We also put tier one as nonprofit park and facility usage, community events with nonprofits and community partners, and community events produced by the city. Again, it's a 0 threshold up to 15. And a lot of those that we've identified in tier one really wouldn't have a fee associated with it. I don't envision them having a fee associated with it. Let's just be clear with that. Tier two is going to be a considerable community benefit, and that's for facility passes and drop-in use. Again, that's where we're going to have the lap swim, the rec swim, the open gym, basketball, things like that, where people can come down and pay a minimal fee to be able to recreate. Tier three has a balanced community individual benefit, which is 25 to 50%. And that includes rentals for exclusive use for our affiliates, partners, and community services, classes, programs, workshops, and camps for beginner and multi-level, and then tournaments and leagues. Tier four is 50 to 75%, which is mostly individual benefited with our trips, specialized activities and camps, classes, programs, and workshops and clinics that are advanced, competitive, and certifications. And then tier five, which is highly individual benefited, which is 75 to 100%, which includes merchandise, concessions, and vending, private and semi-private lessons, rentals for private use. Those are those birthday rentals or weddings. And then rentals for exclusive use for like a private and commercial business. Do we have any questions so far?
I have several.
Great. Because my last slide is next step. So let's go ahead and just talk about your questions now.
Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation so far. I think that this is really important for us to talk about, and it's important for us to create a fee schedule around a fee philosophy, because it's certainly not all about the money, but if it's not at least a little bit about the money, then none of this happens. So I'm going to focus on 4 and 5.
Okay.
So my question is going to start with tier 5. As far as merchandise, concessions, and vending go, I am a little bit confused, honestly, about where those concessions are being purchased, where that merchandise is being purchased. The concessions stand has not been open at the pool for about 8 years, and even then it wasn't run by the city. So I don't understand where that money is going to generate from. So I'd be curious to know about that. Private and semi-private lessons, I think there's good opportunity there to charge more for that. That is something that is sought after. Although the personal training, I assume that's going to be a only during good weather opportunities, since there is no more community gym. The rentals, the private rentals, again, I think that that is a good opportunity to charge more for our rentals. And as far as commercial goes, I don't see anything like that currently happening in our city, although there is opportunity. So I just see a lot of not happening or potential opportunity, but not actual things that are currently happening that we can like take all of this and put it into tier 5 and actually expect some sort of cost recovery. And then I have questions about 4 too. I can go on, or you can answer.
Let me answer the ones that you have
perfect.
first.
Thank you.
Thank you. So regarding concessions, we actually did open our concession stand this past summer. It was minimal, but it was open. We sold prepackaged goods. We tried to work with the health department to be able to offer like nachos and hot dogs and things that would actually require you to prepare food. But the process for that was going to take a lot longer. And then we just weren't able we weren't going to be able to get that permit in time for summer. So we stuck with the prepackaged food items, and it did fairly well this summer. And for what we were able to offer in the time period of being able to open Rec Swim, it was pretty popular. So we plan to actually expand that. We are working with the health department to get that stand permitted by the county. And that does, again, take some time, but we're working through that process to be able to do that and expand sales through there. Merchandise, we are, like I mentioned, Stranger Things, we are selling t-shirts for that event. So that would fall underneath Tier 5 as well. And then regarding private and semi-private lessons, it's pretty broad. We offer several. We do private tennis, we do private swimming lessons, we do semi-private swimming lessons. We're actually trying to bring back some fitness classes coming this spring and summer that potentially could have a private element to it. So that's where that would fall under. We just wanted to make sure that we were including these categories to fit with us. And again, the idea is to have this grow with us. We're trying to evolve. We are trying to do more. We're trying to bring back programs that we had pre-pandemic and bring them back now. And potentially, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say this, look at other cities and what they're offering and bring that here. I've heard that a lot from this community, that they leave American Canyon and they're going elsewhere. And my job is to recognize that and hear that and see how we can get those programs here. And that's really what we're focused on and what we're looking at trying to do for this summer. So there's a lot of opportunity there. For the commercial rentals, surprisingly enough, we've actually got a lot of asks this since I've been here, for people to come in and do a commercial event down at the wetlands. It's a perfect example. They come here, they see it, they want to do something, and they're charging and they're making money, and it's really a come in and come out. And so really recognizing that and having that be an opportunity and put that on the books as, if this is something we want to do, we should probably categorize it and put it in there and understand what that cost is of those type of rentals. And then I believe private rentals, kind of the same thing. So we are just opened up our facility rentals. It was a soft open for December. All of our Saturdays are booked in December. It's actually kind of exciting. We plan on bringing former Napa Junction online to that facility rental circuit, hopefully as early as January of this coming year. And so then we'll have 3 facilities for community members to be able to rent for their private events or even for their fundraiser events, and just being able to recognize the difference of a community rental, a private rental, and a commercial rental, because those all exist in the world that we're in right now, and that's where we're getting feedback from the community and from outside people that want to come in here. I'm ready for your next set of questions.
Okay, thank you very much for those answers. If I could just get some clarification, as far as commercial rentals that are currently happening, is the Pumpkin Patch Company considered?
Not with us. So that's completely separate. That's not handled by our department.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but when we talk about commercial rentals, what's in our realm in Parks and Rec, it would be for them to come into like a park or a sports field or a actual facility like the rec center or the adult activity center or former Napa Junction. Like those type of commercial rentals would fall under us. Other business opportunities go in other departments.
Okay, so is there an example of something that has like actually taken place as far as commercial rental, or is this future state?
We have gotten some interest. She didn't provide a lot of information because she wasn't willing to answer most of my questions, but somebody from up north, I believe that's north, wanted to come down and do that's why I put mini Bottle Rock on there, because it really was a mini Bottle Rock at Community Park 2. And they wanted to be able to come in and just have the park for 3 days and charge a fee and then leave. So being able to recognize that as a commercial rental and charging them for their time, and in my opinion, that would be 100% cost recovery because that's a business. There's very little tie to this community. Yes, it would be nice to have something like that here, but it really is for profit, and recognizing the difference as a nonprofit versus a for-profit. And I think that's where I was making the distinction.
Okay, so this is for opportunities for future because you've received inquiries, but nothing that's currently happening or has happened.
No, because right now the way that we are structuring, the way that we are operating is we have a fee schedule that was, I believe, adopted several years ago. And this is kind of the start of it, right? Like recognizing that we have all these service categories and potential service areas of where we will be expanding to, and putting them in their appropriate bucket to be able to charge appropriately based off of the percentage that we've identified as a fair fee. And hopefully bringing that master fee schedule to City Council for them to adopt. And that would potentially align our fees to where we would like them to be.
Okay, sounds good. I'm glad there's a plan.
There's always a plan.
Okay, so my questions for Tier 4 are, as far as trips are concerned, are these things that have happened, that there are examples of, or is this a future state
No,
again?
so right now we have adult trips that are done by our adult activity center, where they went to Apple Hill a couple weeks ago. I wish I had a seat. But this is where staff is getting a vehicle. They are taking a group of people on day trips. There's also potential that if we wanted to, we could do overnight trips. We're just not there yet. But I wanted to recognize that is a service that we are providing right now. And calling that out as a service.
And is that for staff or community?
Community.
Okay. And then I have a question about the camps, because I know that the city was not doing any summer camps this past summer. It was Boys and Girls Club.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's after-school programming that American Canyon Community and Parks Foundation does. So is the city planning on bringing back any of these camps and these programs that sound lovely, but I don't know that are happening right now?
Yes, you're going to make me talk about summer programming. So we have some big plans for summer. I think one of our goals, and this is something that I've talked with ACCPF about, as well the Boys and Girls Club. And again, our goal here is not to compete. Our goal here is to enhance and work together and partner, because we do have some amazing organizations offering some amazing programs. But the sandbox is very large, and there's a lot of play space for multiple people to be in there. And we actually received a ton of feedback from community members this past summer that they really wish that we had a summer camp. We heard them. We're going to be bringing back a summer camp. It's going to be Monday through Friday from 8 o'clock to 4:30. That is going to be an option. We also are going to be bringing some STEAM camps, which are going to be weekly, with Playwell Technologies and Challenge Island, with some slime and some Legos and some really fun stuff. We're also going to be offering online classes with coding and engineering and things like that, for those individuals that want to have that online experience. So we're actually really right now we're in the final planning stages of our summer. We are going to be having that finalized by the end of December, and potentially we are going to be having our activity guide be mailed out to all the households as of March this year. So that is our plan. We are really excited to be able to bring this stuff back and be able to offer some really cool things that I think this community is really going to enjoy.
Excellent. I'm very happy to hear that, because I know that the camps were missed this summer, and I think that that is important to have for our community, that people are not traveling outside of the city in which they live to take their children to camp so that they can go to work for the day. So that is fabulous. That makes me very excited. And then my only other question is around the gym, competitive sports, and then the new rental space at Napa Junction. I'm curious if the multi-use room / gym at Napa Junction is going to be the planned site for the new competitive sports, basketball, those kind of programming. And with that in mind, if there is going to be some construction to that site to make it safe, because right now the ground is very uneven, and there are no adult-sized toilets.
So, I'm sorry. I'm just laughing because some of the classrooms do have the baby toilets, and it's very cute. As a mom who has a toddler, it's very cute. I wouldn't want to sit on it, but that's just sorry. So former Napa Junction is not the location that we're going to be holding our sports programs. It's not an appropriate space. It's not a gymnasium. It's not big enough. We have identified it potentially being able to accommodate like an indoor pickleball. We think that we would be able to stripe it for indoor pickleball, potentially badminton, because it doesn't need a larger space. An idea is even being thrown around of doing a teen night with a roller rink. We think that might be a cool thing. But our goal is to continue to work with the school district. We have, during the property exchange, there was conversation, and we had notified them that we would still be a heavy user until we have a proper gymnasium. We would have to rent that space. It would be at their nonprofit rate. And we would need to use that for all of our basketball leagues, our drop-in volleyball, drop-in basketball programs, because we just don't, that's the most appropriate space that we have. So we are still working with the school district on getting that booked out. They just released their Facilitron late Friday evening, and we were able to book December through June for all of the potential programming that's upcoming. And we have staff that are currently working with school staff to get the remainder of November booked. So that is our plan for that. Regarding construction, there is no plan to do any major construction. However, we do have plans of updating that facility and making it a usable space. So recognizing that the classrooms that we are going to be having programming in, potentially adult programming, multi-generational programming, we will be replacing the toilets. We will be fixing doors. There's several windows that are broken. The multi-purpose room in itself, we know that we need to paint, we need to clean it. We've identified that. So that is the goal, is to fix it up cosmetically, and in areas where we do need to invest some money, we plan to do that. We're just not going to be doing any major construction, because the overall goal here is to be able to use it and then potentially have a more formal conversation with this community and city council of what future plans for that site is going to look like.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
all your time. I'll let other people speak now. Although, one last thing. I do hope that the school district is willing to provide you with all of their maintenance records and the blueprints and everything for that site, since it's been maintained by them since 1954. It would be nice to have that information.
Yeah, and I just want to say I think this is exciting. I know Clarence and I both worked on this years ago, and I think it was an exciting process then. Certainly, it was a learning experience for me to categorize it in the way that we categorized it then. Excuse me. And I like how you categorized it now and even updated it. So I think it's great.
Thank you.
Director Akita, just for my own clarification, if you don't mind, can you go back to the screen for the post-COVID service categories, the tiers?
Did you want this one, or did
The other one. The tier, the pyramid.
The pyramid is, supposed, not,
Post, correct.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
apologize.
Good. just to let you know, the list of post-COVID service categories, just for my analysis, I'm gonna go in and put, 1 through 5 on these. And don't wanna have to take up, if you just leave it on there. and I don't
Yeah,
wanna
I'm
take up-
sorry I didn't do that. I
No, it's okay.
apologize. I was gonna add like percentages and where it's at, but I was like, I don't want to make this too confusing. It's a lot of information.
It is, and maybe just as a point of clarification for everybody, because there is a lot of information here. When we look at, for example, number 5, merchandise, concession, and vending, it's my understanding that basically, if we're going to sell a hot dog and we purchase the hot dog for $1, we're going to sell it for $3. And I'm not sure if that gets into the 75 to 100%, but you get the idea.
Right.
That's the idea.
No, that is exactly the idea, because when we talk about cost recovery, when we look at this, right, when you guys, I apologize, that's not the appropriate thing to say. When this commission and staff did all of this work, they took the entire total budget, which included all of like our expenses, right? Not only personnel, but all of the expenses, your overhead, your electricity, your water, your IT, your paper supplies, like everything that goes into this expense bucket is where you get your cost recovery rate, right? Like that's how you get your program cost recovery rate. That's not realistic for most of our programs. It's just not. It's going to get to a point, because also the other side of this is we could sit here and say we want to charge $150 for private swim lessons, because that's what our cost is. That's what our true cost is based off, and I'm just making this up, so please don't hold me to this, because I would never do that. But just use that as an example. Like, we were able to break down fully what our true cost of that program was, with the staff, the time, the water, the chemicals, the electricity, the program supplies. Anything that would go into that program would be part of that cost recovery rate. And if it came out to be that it was $150, but then you start looking at the city of Vallejo, or you start looking at the city of Benicia, or Napa, or Vacaville, the closest cities around you, and you're out of that market rate, people aren't going to pay that, and they're going to go elsewhere. They're going to be upset. They're not going to be happy, and that's not our goal. Our goal is to recognize be aware of what other people are charging, and understand that there are programs in here that aren't going to be 100% cost recovery. They're only going to be 25. They're only going to be 50. And that's okay, because the value and the benefit is more than the dollar amount. And that's really what we're trying to do here. But you're absolutely correct. It's recognizing that those other items, like the merchandise, which are truly individualized, where that person is purchasing a hot dog and they're eating it and they're enjoying it, we want to make sure that it falls within that bucket of being 75 to 100% cost recovery. And that's going to include the staff time that are working the concession stand, and the supplies and the things like that. So it's just being able to identify each individual program and recognize what each individual program's cost is, and what that cost recovery rate should be, or where we want it to be, and recognizing, does that fee make sense? Is it comparable to all the other cities around us? Is it fair? Is it equitable? And that's really where we want to create a master fee schedule to identify all the programs and services that we're serving right now.
Right. As I recall, the education that we received was that this city, and this department in particular, subsidizes a lot of great things for our residents, but we do not have to subsidize the eating of a hot dog, because that's a private benefit.
Correct.
Versus Magic of the Season or the 4th of July, we're not going to charge admission to our residents to enjoy the 4th of July fireworks, even though fireworks cost quite a bit of money.
Correct. Yes, and so that's why you can see for this fiscal year, when we presented the budget for 22-23, our expenses are 2.7 million, our estimated generated revenue, and that's if everything that we have planned for the year runs. And mind you, a lot of things that we do is also contract services. We do a lot of contract classes with independent contracted instructors. So if that class doesn't run, that expense is not there and that revenue is not there. So hopefully that's going to balance itself out. But even with those projections, we were only 31% cost recovery. That means that we're being subsidized by the general fund of 69%. And that's okay. That there's been no direction from this city council nor the city manager that what we are doing is wrong. We are doing what this community wants us to do, which is serving them and providing programs and services to them, including working with our nonprofits and our community partners to be able to offer some amazing events and some amazing things that most cities, like when I tell my friends across the bridge, they're like, oh my goodness, I want to go there. And I'm like, I know, it's so cool. And so it's just recognizing that we do more than just needing to charge a fee. It's not about the money. It's just being mindful and physically responsible and recognizing, to your point, we don't need to subsidize the purchase of a hot dog. We do need to subsidize community events. We do need to partner and work with our community nonprofits and our community partners. We do need to provide a nonprofit rate to those individuals to fundraise, to potentially give back more to our community. That's really what the goal here is.
So, and I'm sorry, if you don't mind, can you go back to the pyramid? Thanks.
You're welcome.
Looking forward to the next steps, and I know we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, it's really simple. The next slide is the next steps.
Oh,
and
great, okay.
It's really, what I wanted to do is take all this information and put it into a staff report, and then create a draft master fee schedule based off of the programs and services that we're currently providing right now, and potentially bring that here and discuss that with you all. And then hopefully after that, we would take it to city council and get that approved. And then each year, our goal is to update that master fee schedule, and hopefully it would align with what we're doing then too.
I think Commissioner Cervente wants to speak.
Hi, I had my hand up, so but I guess you didn't see it.
I just saw it, sorry.
Thank you. No, that's okay. Thank you. So I had a couple of comments, and one of them is that, well, thank you for the presentation. It was very visually, it was very visual, and that's really good to understanding some of the some of the procedures. I apologize. I'm dealing with bronchitis, so that's why I'm not there. But I'm coughing a lot, so I apologize for that. I one of the things I feel like is the department needs to really see how we can better price our rentals. And then another thing that I wanted to bring is that for example, the Meteors and S'mores and Meteors event this year, there was a charge for the s'mores, because I think it's the first time that they were charged, and folks were really, I had a lot of complaints about it from friends that went, that they could not believe that the city was charging for the s'mores. And so just be a little bit more mindful of events like that, because, you know, that's an event that they is really well attended. And, you know, it is a s'mores and Meteors. And this past year, there were no s'mores for free. You had to pay, I think $6 per s'more, per little packet or something like that. And then there were no I forgot the name of the thing that you see the stars with or the meteors. There were no
Telescopes.
telescopes. Yeah, thank you. There were no telescopes for people. So so what I'm saying is, there are people out there that there are, don't like that, and they voiced their they voiced it to me and to other folks around town, that how can the city be, charging for stuff like that? So I just guess to be more mindful of what events you charge for when you do charge. I would rather you charge more for rental at the park. There right now, I think it's $50. I think it makes more sense for you to charge more for those rentals than actually charge for us more at an event. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. I do want to just kind of touch on that because I'm not quite sure if you attended the event, but yes, we did charge for that event. It's not really an event. It's actually a specialized program. We charged to cover the staff that we had on site that evening, as well as the multiple program expenses that went into that. The s'mores were unlimited. You weren't just paying for the s'mores, you were paying for the experience. We had silent disco out there. We had unlimited s'mores. People can go up there as many times as they wanted, and that was communicated to all the participants who registered. We had multiple telescopes where we actually partnered. I forget the name, Liz. I forgot the name. Do you remember, Liz? Okay, thank you. We did partner with the telescope scientists that actually came down. There were multiple telescopes, at least a minimum of 3 out there. I remember because I was out there with my kids. But really the idea here is that's not a special event. That's a specialized program. That is where we're bringing a program to one of our facilities. And I know we traditionally had classified it as an event, but it's not. A special event in our definition of what we have here this evening would fall under like July 4th or Veterans Day, Memorial Day, even though those are with partnerships with VFW and Troop Support and all those other individuals. But that's really where those community events are. Juneteenth, Pride, things like that. Those are special events. This is a specialized program, and we charged a minimal fee for what they were getting and for the actual cost of what we spent on that program. The cost outweighed the fee. And just based off of having the 10 staff, the food, the telescopes, the silent disco, and all the program expenses, I think you can understand that our expenses significantly outweighed the minimal fee of what we charge for that experience. Thank you.
I think it's just growing pains.
It is, and I think it is, and I want to be sensitive to that, and I want to be mindful of that. But when I first started with the city, and when we were talking about our budget, the goal was never to be 100% budget neutral. It was always just to try to cover your staff costs, because again, our biggest expense for our department is people and their time, and being physically responsible with that and charging where we feel that can accommodate that charge. Like we charged $6, which we felt for a family of 4, that was affordable for what you were getting. When I brought my 2 kids and myself, like I paid for the 3 of us, and that was and I enjoyed it. My children loved it. It was an amazing experience. Definitely very unique to American Canyon and very specialized. But we're gonna do Donuts with Santa on December 17th. Minimal charge, $5. They're coming down for the morning. They're getting donuts. They're gonna take pictures with Santa. They're gonna do some arts and crafts. It really, that fee is there to help cover a little bit of the program costs. It's not to cover the entire expense, because that would just be so hard for some families. A family of 4, that's $20. And we just want to make it affordable so people do participate. We don't want to outprice them. We don't want to discourage them, but we just need to be physically responsible for where we're charging and why we're charging, and just being mindful of that.
just an additional add to that, because Vice Chair Cervantes' example of the s'mores is a perfect one, because this is going to be, well, if we're going to be serious about our fee philosophy and applying this to our future events and programs, we are going to very much have to help our residents understand that the s'mores is pretty much like my hot dog example. It's a consumable. But you know, the pushback on the s'mores is going to be our future when we start applying this stuff. You know,
Yeah.
well, if we raise our rates for the private facility rentals and stop subsidizing things like my, you know, family parties at the park, we're going to get pushback.
Yeah, and it's practice, right? I mean, I think you know, we want to evolve, we want to adapt to our community needs, but we also, as a city, are responsible to be physically responsible with the tax resources that we receive for this department, and it's our job to recognize what should be subsidized and what serves as an individualized benefit, and really balancing that. Like, I'm going to use another example, aquatics, right? Aquatics is very expensive to operate. In general, aquatics is a subsidized division. When you look at a department, you have aquatics, you have sports, you have facility rentals, you have all these different buckets. Aquatics typically as a whole, is subsidized because of the type of, the amount of staff you have to have per what you need to do for each individual program. But within that bucket, you have different programs that are not subsidized. Your private swim lessons are not subsidized. Your private swim clubs are not subsidized. Your swim lessons are. Your water aerobics is. Your lap swim is. Your rec swim is. So overall, it's being able to thoughtfully identify the areas that you know should be subsidized and that are going to help offset that subsidy. Excuse me. You need to know what programs aren't going to be subsidized so they help offset the programs that need to be subsidized. Because again, our goal here is not 100% cost recovery. That is not our goal. That is not the direction of council. That's not the direction of the city manager, and that's not the direction I received. It's just being mindful and, again, recognizing areas that are community-based and individualized-based, and where does it fall within how we structure our fees. I almost want to move away from cost recovery because it's our goal here is it's just, again, it's these buckets to be able to price things appropriately. That's really what we're trying to do here this evening.
I think, if I may, though, that Commissioner Mamerle brings up a good point, because we do need to be very transparent and communicate to our community what defines a special event and what defines special programming and what defines programming, and how the fee schedule is going to change in the future for rentals and semi-private and private lessons and group lessons and bringing back the summer camps. And it's a lot of information, so it needs to be rolled out so that we actually get that message out to everyone. And then once the message is out, our community is great about word of mouth and spreading the information, but we have to think very mindfully about how we get that initial push out so that then it's communicated by word of mouth accurately.
Agreed.
And this is obviously kind of a crazy idea, but it's almost like the city needs a food truck. You're getting the permitting anyway, so you just have the food truck with the s'mores and the hot chocolate at the meteor event and the donuts and the coffee at the Santa event, and no one ever expects to get anything free from a food truck, so then you completely eliminate that.
I agree. I think again, you know, us bringing this back and you know, picking it up from where we left off, this is the step one, right? Like, we're back at step one. We did all of this amazing work. We're refining it, we're adapting, we've evolved, we've identified the service categories that fits what we're doing now, and we've identified the cost recovery rates that we want to be at and where each of those things fall. And then the next step is drafting a staff report, drafting a master fee schedule based off of everything that we're doing or potentially going to be doing, and bringing it back here, discussing it. You're able to see where we were. My plan, my goal is to take where we are, what we plan to be at, and then all the other surrounding cities that we are competing with. So that way you can see that we're within that threshold. And quite frankly, it may not be overnight. When we think about fee increases, we need to be strategic about it as well. We can't just go from 0 to 100. It needs to be incremental. Because I think the other portion of it is if you take a fee that's $65 an hour and you raise it to $225, I'm just being crazy here. That's a big impact. That's a ginormous impact versus recognizing, okay, how do we get there over time? How do we strategically get there over time without making a huge impact, a negative impact, quite frankly? Because we don't want to, this is going to be hard. This is going to be a hard conversation. It's going to be a hard thing, but doing it in a way that is mindful to everybody else, because a gallon of milk is $7. I mean, that's expensive. I mean, my grocery bill per week is expensive. And when you try to start throwing in the extras, like the extra things, we want to still keep our programs and services affordable. We want to still allow people to participate. And so I'm telling you this evening, you're not going to see anything that's going to be super crazy. I want to do this strategically. I want to do it incrementally. That will be our message. And then each year, like I said, when we come and it's budget conversation and discussion, this is part of our budget. We bring the budget packet to City Council. We recommend a 3 to 5% increase, if needed, each and every year. And that's how I'm seeing this. It's almost like your guys' work plan. It's almost like my work plan with the budget packet. Any other questions? So, next steps. Don't you just love that picture? Isn't it so cute? Next steps. We're going to go ahead and we're going to draft we're going to call it a white paper report. It's really just a fancy word to say staff report. And we're going to draft a master fee schedule, and we're going to bring that back here, and we're going to discuss it. And hopefully put it in a way that this community can understand. Really, I think part of the communication is putting it in words that people can understand, and it's tangible, it's understandable. We're using language that they can comprehend and get. Because I will tell you, when I watched the presentation that the consultant provided, I actually told Liz, I was like, I would never present it that way. It was just too. I even got lost in it, and I'm very familiar with budgeting and cost recovery and stuff. And it just wasn't in a language that I would ever present to the community. So just making sure that anybody would be able to communicate it to the public is pretty much our goal. So draft those, bring those back for your guys' review and recommendation, and then any tweaking that you may have, and then potentially going to City Council with our recommendation. And again, it's going to be a user fee study, not a policy, not a fee philosophy, a user fee study based off of our recommendation of where we're at to allow us to adapt and grow and meet this community's needs in the future, as well as draft a master fee schedule, again, based off it this year, with potentially having that schedule being updated on a yearly or bi-yearly basis, if needed. Does that sound like a good plan?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Well, I also think a helpful part of that is exactly what you said, Director Akita. Drafting some language that the front office or all of us can use, one, to educate our residents, and two, to explain in simple words why your park facility rental is now $65 in 2023, and you know, there'll be an incremental rise. I'm not sure what that wordsmithing is going to be. I completely agree that cost recovery, they won't care about the fine points of that. They'll just see that it costs more to rent a park now. So, but public and personal benefit seems to me to be words that can be easily understood. Maybe it just goes back to the hot dog, right? You eating, you know, you get something that 100% benefits you. We're not going to
You're gonna pay for that.
I'm even reluctant to use the word subsidy.
You're gonna pay for that purchase.
You're gonna pay for that fair and square.
Yes.
But you still are not going to, you know, we're still not going to charge an admission fee for Magic of the Season or for the fireworks. And, you know, I'm not sure where the wordsmithing is gonna end up with that. But I know that, you know, speaking for myself, and I know I'm probably speaking for my fellow commissioners, we are very, you know, eager and happy to, you know, help with that. I don't know, for want of a better word, kind of mission, the fee philosophy mission statement.
Perfect. Did you guys want to take public comment on this before we move on?
Sure, I think that makes sense.
Chair, we currently have no one in Zoom land that would like to make a comment. Maybe anyone in the audience?
Have anyone in the audience?
Can you please state your name for the record?
Yes, good evening. Beth Marcus,
Thank you.
longtime resident here. I'm here to learn, so please don't take anything I'm saying to be negative to you or whatever, but I'm just curious. I've been making some notes, so that's the reason why I'm looking at my phone. You keep talking about your employee costs are always passed along to the community. However, I'm confused about that because you're paid by the city, so why would the city, I don't know how to ask this question. Why do you have to pass your cost on to the community at community events if you're paid by the city? And not to hound on the s'mores event, but I happened to, because I was working that event, I heard a lot of people complain about the fee. But you said that the s'mores were, it was unlimited, but it was not. It was one per person. And again, please, I'm not being negative about the whole thing. I'm just saying that these are the kind of comments that I heard. And if you look back at the s'mores event, yeah, it's nice to have the silent disco guy there, but to me that was an additional cost. I would rather see people get free s'mores, have telescopes so you could actually see the meteors, rather than seeing the disco, because I think the kids were more for seeing the meteors than the disco. I think the disco is more for us guys who like to jab with, like Phil Am over there. So personally, I'd rather see the rental cost more increased than having family events that we've been always used to having free. And I know we can't not charge for different things, but I really am confused as why you have to pass along your employee cost when you're paid by the city. Thank you.
You're welcome. So am I allowed to? Thank you. To check with my boss over here. So we're not passing our employee costs. If you looked, when we organized the s'mores program, we charged a minimal fee to help close the gap on the subsidy when we go back to subsidy. I'm curious to, I'm regarding the s'mores itself, that's an interesting thing because I was actually at the event, and I know the staff were providing unlimited s'mores, so I'm really curious to see who was communicating that, because I was actually there, and we went back several times. Yeah, and again, it could have. Yeah, so that's a good takeaway for next time. So thank you for that feedback. Regarding the program, though, it's when you're looking at the cost of things, because again, our programs are tied to people. A lot of the stuff that we do are tied to people. That's our biggest cost. Yes, we get tax dollars to help support our department. Majority of our department budget is subsidized by the general fund. But a lot of the things that we do, we don't recover the full cost. It was our goal to at least cover the staff costs of the programs and services that we're providing, but there's other costs to programs. There's overhead, there's facility costs, there's maintenance, there's IT, there's water, there's electricity. There's a lot of things that go into when you're building a program that you should be considering that isn't always feasible to add to that fee. Our biggest cost is staff. And making sure that if we're going to provide a program and we find it that it's put in its category with the percentage rates of where it's at, and we recognize that that type of program or service is at a 25% cost recovery rate and we charge a minimal fee, that's okay. The $6 was a minimal fee for that event for what they got. It was a specialized program. I know that was a transition and a twist from what was done in the past, but the reality is that isn't a special event. It's a specialized program. A special event is July 4th. Special event is Magic of the Season. A special event is Pride and Juneteenth, those type of things. Those are true, actual community events. This was a specialized program where we partnered with the telescopes to bring them down. That's where we're making that distinguish. That's where we're making that adjustment. We're going to have specialized programs and we're going to have special events. And that's where we're drawing that line. But thank you for your comment.
Any more public comments? No. Okay.
Fran, you don't want to make a public comment? For Zoom land, you do for them to hear you.
Bring the mic to you.
Yes. Yeah, so our budget comes from the general fund. So any taxes that go in the general fund, so our budget is straight from the city's general fund.
But the taxpayer people don't understand that. They understand we're paying taxes. Why are we paying for a mill? So I think the communication to the public needs to know, how it, you did the part that explains where the money goes, but they have to realize that you do pay for a portion of that.
You do, and that's why the message here this evening is we're not expecting our department to be 100% budget neutral. We recognize that community members pay taxes for the services that are provided. And if you look overall, our cost recovery rate overall for our department has been fairly low. And quite frankly, a lot lower than any other department I've ever worked for. And that's okay. That's the message and the direction of this council and this city manager, and they set that tone, and they're listening to the community. And we're not asking to be 100% budget neutral. We're just recognizing areas where we should be charging a little bit more for the service that we're providing. And that allows us to be able to offer more programs and services. So that's really that idea, right? I mean, we do a lot. There's a lot of things that we do where we don't charge anything. Like I'm gonna use Juneteenth as an example. That wasn't a city event. It was sponsored by the city. We had allocated myself and one of our staff who met with Brenda Knight on a bi-weekly basis to organize that event. And she did a phenomenal job. but she needed support and from the city, and we were like, absolutely, let's do that. We didn't charge for that event. We didn't charge her for our time. It was our job to support her because that's what this community wanted. And that was that's part of the subsidy, right? Like that when you think about the things that we do, not everything we do is tied to a fee. Not everything we do is tied to revenue. We have a budget. That's where that $2.7 million comes from, but not everything is revenue generating, is my point.
I think a lot of it is because when we were younger, the public did a lot with the city. And I think we don't do that anymore, as much.
We're actually kind of changing that. I mean, I think our overall direction as a city is recognizing that we can't do everything, and that's where we are partnering with our nonprofits and community partners like Seroptimus. I mean, we constantly partner with them, and AC Arts Foundation and ACCPF. I mean, the list is, I think we have 22 recognized nonprofits and community partners that our department works with, and that is pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible. And they really make a lot of this stuff happen. They really, like, when we can't, like, there's a service gap and they've recognized that there's a service gap, or we just don't have, the resources, the people, the time, they're like, we'll do it. And we're like, okay, how do we support you? What is your need from us? We're like, all we need is a park. It's yours. Take the park. So there is a ton of collaboration and support where the city has recognized that, and that is the direction that we're going, and that is the direction that we want to continue to go. Sure.
Years ago, we used to have a community events committee, and I don't know if you're aware of that or not. I was on it twice. We got fired twice, but and it's probably because you guys weren't even formed yet. Now, Clarence, you might remember this. Some of you guys might remember this, but gosh, I was on it with Cindy Biederman, all kinds of people, and we did the Memorial Day, we did 4th of July, we did all the events, and that's something that, but again, like I said, you have the commission now, so I don't know if maybe that's what takes it up, but it might be something that you could look at. I mean, community people really want to help out, to help with cost or do whatever they can, but that's something that we did do. Like I said, I was on it twice, and we all got fired twice, but anyhow.
Thank you. Well, there's always opportunities for volunteering. And, I think the reason for us, we do have a community events calendar where our team meets with all of our nonprofits and community partners. I believe it's on a monthly basis, and we go over that calendar that's on the website and all the things that are upcoming, and really centralizing all of those events, because again, it's not the city that's doing all of this. We're just one of 22 that are doing all of this. And so being able to bring it into one area and not formalizing it and allowing these groups to be creative and flexible. I believe there was even discussion of April, Diwali event that they want to do. And that's exciting. And having people step up to the plate and wanting to do that. And I don't really want to get in the middle of that. I don't want to be the facilitator of that. I would rather be like, how can we support you? I know, and I'm okay with that. I just told him he needed to make sure that I have a spot because I want to be participating. So, thank you for that, because it's really important that we recognize that there's a lot of things that we do, and there's a lot of support and partnerships going on, and that is going to be the continued direction of this department. Thank you.
Okay, any other community comments? Okay. All right, then I guess we'll move on to business item 2, the discussion on the Parks and Community Services Commission recruitment.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to give you an update. So currently, as you all know, we have two 2 vacancies coming up at the end of December, and our recruitment just ended today. We have 12 applicants that applied. It's very exciting. Sorry? Oh, it ends tomorrow. Excuse me. I apologize. It closes tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We have 12 applicants, and pretty much the next steps, once it closes, the city council is going to review all the applications, and potentially at some point, I don't really know the dates, but the series of events is going to be, they're going to review the applications, they're going to interview the qualified applicants that they choose, and then they're going to make appointments. And hopefully those appointments will either happen by December 20th or January 2023. So that's kind of the plan of where we're at right now.
Okay, thank you. So management and staff reports?
Talking a lot tonight. So I wanted to give you an update. We have officially hired our full-time recreation coordinator who's going to help us oversee open space and facility rentals. His name is David Farley. You may have known him. He used to work at the Boys and Girls Club. He's an active member of this community. His children go to our schools. He is a great addition to our team, and we're so excited to welcome him. His first day was Monday, and he's getting acclimated, and he's learning about his new role, and he's just fitting right in. So if you have a moment, if you see him, please welcome him, because we're just so very excited to have him be a part of our team. Ridge Trail Day was on November 5th. I would say that was a successful event. We had 16 volunteers show up out of the 20 that volunteered. One of them was David. He showed up. It wasn't even working yet, and he's like, I remember you told me during the interview that this was happening, and he made a point to come down and volunteer, and that was a really awesome introduction. But we worked closely with our maintenance and utilities department. I really want to thank the 3 individuals, Doug, Dan, and Juan, who helped us. They were phenomenal. I honestly don't even think that we would have been able to get what we did accomplished. We were able to restore over 500 feet of the trail. The upper portion of Newell Trail that's in the grazing area that's heavily impacted by the cattle. So hopefully the rains, we got it in right before it rained. I need to go up there and inspect it and take a look and see how it's holding up. But we were able to put down some gravel, and hopefully that is going to help with the type of soil and the rains and everything like that. So thank you to our amazing volunteers and to our city staff for all of their time and dedication, because it really was a great, great volunteer project. Veterans Day is tomorrow. If you have an opportunity to come down and support our veterans, I encourage you. It's going to be at 11 o'clock at the American Canyon Middle School. We hope to see you all there. American Canyon Middle School Gym. Thank you. Middle School Gym. Same location as every year, so please do not let me confuse you. We hope to see you there. It starts at 11. And then I also wanted to give you an update on the playground replacement project. The City Council really liked the designs, and we are going to bring that project forward just for the playgrounds itself for right now. We're going to look into the shade structure and some park restrooms and things like that, and that's going to be separated out because the playgrounds are really the main focus. We are going to go with Northampton being an all-inclusive universal play experience, so we're very excited about that. And that's going to be at the City Council. It's going to go to consent next week on the 15th. So we're excited to start that project and get it going. We would like to do a ribbon cutting, a pre-construction ribbon cutting for Northampton Park, so please look out for that. We'll invite you to that. This is a pretty amazing opportunity for us as a city and for us as a community to be able to bring that type of experience here for our community. That is it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions, comments? No.
I have my hand up.
Okay.
Can I? Thank you. Director, would it be possible for you to do some a recap of where the parks are gonna be and do a blast out on your social media. There were some people, they were pretty vocal about their disagreement on where the parks are going. Some of them don't even know that there's gonna be a fantastic park coming to Northampton. So I was wondering if you could do some sort of outreach and explain a little bit more to the community where all these new parks and new opportunities for our families will be at, so that they can see that all the wonderful work that you're doing. Some of the negative comments stem out of the moving the skate park. And, you know, some of the comments were like, well, we don't have anything on this side of the highway. And I was like, wait a minute, you know, there's two parts coming over there. And all of a sudden it dawned on me that they just don't know what's going on. So I was wondering if you could do a nice blast of all these wonderful things coming up.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Chair Cervente. Once the project gets approved by City Council, I'll work with our comms team and we can absolutely get that information out. Because I did see that on the American Canyon happenings as well. So I know there's some comments, and I think been able to really talk about some amazing projects that are coming down the pipeline that's going to benefit the entire community. So thank you for that suggestion.
Any other comments?
I just have a clarifying question. At the council meeting, I know it was talked about a lot about the flooring, if you will, of the Via Bellagio Park, and there were several comments that they would like to price that out with the firm surface versus the wood chips, bark, whatever that fancy word is that you kept using. Are we getting additional quotes? Are we moving forward with the current plan? Are we just trying to order the equipment now because of the lag time? Can you just give a few more details?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're going to move forward with the project as is. We did receive the feedback from council, and I mean the project as is just in regards to the plan for option 1, 2. I'm sorry. Northampton option 2, which is the ramped, Via Bellagio as is, and then Linwood Park as is, of what you guys saw during that presentation and what was presented to you. We did receive some feedback from City Council that they would like for us to price out the rubber surface at Via Bellagio. So I am working with our playground company to get that priced out, as well as looking at other shade options for Northampton Park. They would like to see something more permanent and something larger to accommodate the type of use that park is getting. So, as well as park restrooms. So those are the 3 things that we are working on that are going to be separate. We really just want to start this project, and if we do need to change the material, the surface, or Via Bellagio, we'll work with council on making that adjustment and that change. But we really want to just move this project forward, get the equipment ordered, and that piece is not critical to starting this project. Yeah, you're welcome.
It's a great idea, though.
It could go into our new activity guide.
I couldn't hear the idea. Could you repeat it?
Sorry, Vice Chair Cervente. Fran had suggested that we create a map of all of our parks citywide, and I was saying that is a great suggestion, and we might be able to include that in our activity guide and put it on our website.
Maybe
and put it on social media.
Maybe it could be a centerfold that you can actually tear out and fold up and carry with you.
And give a copy to Fran.
Yes, and get a copy to Fran.
Okay, so moving on to commissioner comments and future items for consideration. Did Commissioner Margolotti have any additional?
She did not, Chair, just what she had submitted previously.
Okay, so just her inclusions here on the social hike on Saturday, January 7th at Newell Preserve. Let's see. And then, of course, we all know about the reindeer run in just a couple weeks on December 3rd. And yeah, that's it. And then the only other one here is Seroptimus, and actually it's Seroptimus and ACCPF. I think, as some of you may know, Seroptimus and ACCPF are the two nonprofits in town that are part of the Give Guide this year, and so we're doing a lot of things together. One of them being, well, we're going to be at the Reindeer Run. They're sponsoring it, but we'll have a presence there. And then we have a Dine and Donate at Lasso on December 11th. So you'll see that on there. I didn't have the time when I sent this in, but it's from 4 to 7. So that's for both ACCPF and us, and we would welcome you there. That's the biggest fundraiser that we're going to have for Give Guide. But you'll start to see our signs around town starting actually now. Both nonprofits all around town in terms of banners and posters and signs and all sorts of things. So watch out for them and tell your friends and your family and everyone. So, any other commissioner comments?
I don't know if this is the right forum for this, but just speaking about communications and safety and parks and getting the message out to the community, I would like to consider communication out to our community around dogs and leash laws and safety. I walk every day, and for me personally, it has been an issue and an increasing issue in my walks lately. There are a lot of off-leash dogs at wetlands. There's a leash law, and I think it's important that our community members feel safe to go to playgrounds and parks and out to the open spaces and walk around the neighborhoods and not have dogs off leash, even if they're quote unquote friendly. You know, there was a dog that was loose at Shenandoah. It's a repeat offender. There was many events going on at the park. The dog was jumping on the children. It's a high traffic area as well. It just wasn't safe. I was walking my dog yesterday. There was a dog that got off the leash and literally took me and my dog out and were like splayed on the sidewalk. So it just seems to be an increasing thing. And since we're parks and community, it might be an opportunity for us to address that as a commission, as a city body. That's all.
Thank you.
I echo that. About a year ago, myself and another resident had a fairly dramatic confrontation with an off-leash dog owner, with us telling the dog owner, you should really put your dog on a leash, and her being actually fairly belligerent about it. So education, I completely agree. I would also add to that, using poop bags.
I was going to bring that up. So I don't know if you all saw my trail video, but it went viral. I had 47 views, and that is my new way of communicating. I found it to be pretty effective and it's a great way to engage. And one of them, I don't know if I'm able to compete with Mochi though. I saw Mochi's dog video from a couple years ago, Clarence. Excuse me, Commissioner Memorial. But I think that would be a good tie-in because I did want to do just, education about dogs in our parks. And I think that's important. And adding the leash to it would be a great element.
Just as a point of clarification, Mochi is happily retired because her owner doesn't have time to make videos anymore. So, meaning the field is wide open for
Thank you.
for the Parks Department to do that.
We will we'll work on that because that is on our to-do list as our next video that we would like to get out because we have recognized that as well. The dog remnants are left behind, and it's just very unpleasant, especially for our park goers and users, and so adding the leash as well, because I think that's important, recognizing that too. So we'll include that.
Yeah, and I think the more angles we can tackle that from, the better.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I do. Have my hand up.
Commissioner Cervente?
Mrs. So, excuse me. I was wondering if at some point, I've asked this many times in the past, if we could talk a little bit about the dog park. And the dog park has a lawn, and that's it, and a bucket, and then I think it's a water faucet. And so I'm wondering if we could agendize for some time in the near future. How can we make the dog park a little more friendly and with some obstacle choices in more things to do, and not necessarily having the city to pay for, but maybe the city can collaborate with another organization. So I wanted to see if we can bring that someday to our agenda and see how we can beautify the dog park. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? No. Okay. Hearing no other comments, this meeting is adjourned at 8:14.
Well, you too.